Okay, so here I am with the tutorial of the how to make the Hangman in Minecraft. And I'm here doing a voiceover of the footage because I forgot to record the microphone during the episode. But anyways, the reason I'm doing this is because I got one comment on the video asking how to make it. So here it is, big long tutorial. And I am going to be here explaining everything I did and why I'm doing it. So all these banners, you have to make them. I'm not doing a tutorial on them. But you just need to make sure they stack because those are very important to the function of the entire thing. So right now I'm just grabbing blocks. Hoppers, you need a lot of those. You also need redstone components, basic things. Now, there's like two main drawbacks to this system. Number one, that the amount of slots you have, that's how long the word has to be. It cannot be any shorter. And also there cannot be any double letters, as I will explain in greater detail later, because both of those... Oh, in this, I'm just showing a system that was work in progress to make it better, but I couldn't figure it out. But yeah, anyway, you need the barrel. That's just my personal preference. You really don't need that. So anyway, what we're going to start off doing is making the item filter thing, and that's going to be the main part of the system, how to detect correct letters or not. And that is really simple. You just first need a barrel. Yeah. What are you doing? Ah, right. I forgot a lamp. Wait, no, I didn't. Okay, so the lamp is an indicator light. I'll add that back later. But we just need a barrel, and we're going to be stacking some hoppers on top. And they do have to be in specific directions. This bottom one has to be facing into the barrel, whichever side you put the barrel on. I'm just putting it down because of the indicator lamp, as mentioned earlier. And then the two above it, they have to be to the side, not facing down. That's very important, because if they were facing down, it wouldn't work properly. But yeah, anyways, now we need to add some blocks in specific places. And we're also going to need glass, because glass has special properties that doesn't let the redstone signal bleed through the block and activate things that aren't supposed to be activated. So we're going to be using glass for some of the blocks. And it's very important you use the glass in the correct places. So we're going to place a glass right there, stopping right there. And that's so we could put redstone on top of it and deactivate the second hopper, but not the third hopper. That's one of the reasons of the glass. And right now, we're taking a comparator output through a block and getting it from the top hopper, and comparators can take their signal through a one block gap, so that's why we have the block there, just to get ourselves some extra distance away. Then we have our two pieces of redstone, and that block that's not glass, that's definitely important right here, is the final product, what it would look like. So now that we're back over here, we need to put a redstone torch there. Another reason why we need more glasses, so the redstone torch doesn't create an infinite loop. Glass there, and then a stone block there. And that should be it for the item sorter. We're going to come back to this later. But now, if you want to have like a clear indication if you have a correct letter or not, because it's really annoying to check every single barrel every single time, we're just going to need to... Oh, wait, I forgot one last thing. We need to properly set up the item sorter. Right here, I'm just testing, but I will skip ahead for you. Yeah, it turns out I was a fool. It's only till much later that I realized you need 15 blocks in one slot and then one in the other 3 slots. You just need to make sure that the rest of the 3 slots are filled completely. And the reason for this is because that first slot is going to be where the banner goes in. That's how you set the words. And that's how you set the letters. And... oh, yeah, but... Anyway, you need the 18 items, and that's how you make sure that if you put in one item, that'll be set... or if you put in one banner, that'll be set for the... what you detect. If you are doing like regular items, you need like 18, but I'm doing banner, so it's 15, 1, 1, and 1, and the first slot is open. Anyways, what I'm doing right now is I just made an indicator light. Yeah. yeah. Guess I kind of just skimmed over that, but it's just a single comparator going into a repeater that go back into the lamp. Really not too difficult. It's just detecting if there's a single item in there, and there will be a single item in there if you get an item correct, because there will only be one of each letter type. If there's multiple of each letter type, then, if there was 2 S's, then all the S's would go into the first slot and then into the second slot. I really don't know how I would... You could probably fix that if you just stopped the top hopper if there was an item, but there's really not a lot of space for that, but that's an option if you know what I'm talking about. Just taking that redstone line that going into the lamp, just driving it into the first hopper and just powering that one. Right now I'm showing how to do the overhead conveyor, the conveyor belt, because that is what really drives it. And this is going to be our striking system. Now I need to go back and build it. So that conveyor makes sure only one item goes in at a time, and if it doesn't get taken by any of them, it'll go into our strike system, which we are building right here. So mine just goes across all the top of every single one and then down. Right now I'm only going to be building, or in this video I'm only going to be building one of everything, and you could just build it modularly as you want. You can just build as many as you want. But right now, every single time a item will go through that, it'll go into a comparator, we'll see an item goes through and depower that redstone torch for a very short time, and that short time is just enough to increment this timer system this incremental system by 1. We have a redstone torch over each just to stop strikes from going in and out freely, as they will do if you don't have them there. But basically there's 5 non-stackable items. Each non-stackable item will take up a slot, so you will have 5 strikes. It will probably be more effort than it is worth to change the amount other than 5, but you might be able to find a way. I'm not entirely sure. But right here I'm going to be using wooden swords, because wooden swords are non-stackable items, but you could really use anything. Fishing rods, bows, boats, anything that stacks up to 1. Because their comparator output is different than an item that stacks up to 64 when, if a comparator takes an input. So I just put in 3 items, 3 swords get transferred. And that's really the main basis of the striking system. And now what we're going to do is take a redstone comparator output from that and count how many swords are in that one thing. So right now I'm just building a redstone line that is 15 long. And it is pretty important that it's 15 long, because that is the maximum redstone strength there will be. So if you have 5 strikes, it'll be 15 long. You don't have to do 15 long, I just made it for easier counting's sake. But right now I'm going to send in some more items just to make sure that 5 items go through. So 1 gives out a signal strength of 3, and then for each strike, which I'm testing individually, it'll give another 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15 tiles respectively, 1 for each. It's just basically the amount of strikes times 3, that's how many blocks. If you wanted, you could condense this, but like I did in my actual one, but that would be a lot more effort than it's really worth. If you have the space for it, it's really just easier to do it this way, and also faster. The system will run faster. Now I'm making my Hangman person, but you do not have to copy this design. This is just what I am doing. You can make yours as big or outlandish as you want. So right now I'm just doing a simple stick figure person and a big head, which I will shrink later because I'll shrink now or later sometime. It just doesn't look good. So I'm just taking the first one, hooking it to the second one. So what I'm doing here is each strike's going to be 1 leg, body, arms, head. This part really is the easiest part of the entire thing. I think the hardest part is the sorting system, which is what took me the longest of all things, surprisingly. Everything else was very easy. So I really hope you can follow this. I'm going rather quick pace for this video. which still is only 10 minutes in. We reached the 10-minute mark. Woo. Look at that. Okay, well, I'm just thinking what I'm going to do, because I actually made 6 body parts. So now I'm going to turn the head into 1 strike and just make it easier on myself by doing 1 redstone line. And I'm also going to have both arms be counted as a single strike together. So if you get the 4th one should be both arms. Really, this part is completely stylistic, up to you. You can do it whatever you want. Just don't do it as close as I did, because it causes some problems later. Just, yeah, keep it maybe a few blocks distance in between the actual strike counting and the hangman. It caused a little bit of issues. And I'm looking at this original one. You can see what it looks like when it's done. Ours is completely bare bones, not looking at all the same. But now I'm adding the other 3 strikes, which should give us not quite enough strikes. But just add more items and boom, we should be at full strikes, just to test if all of them work. And for this one, the arms, I'm just gonna really don't do what I did. It's not worth it. It's gonna look horrible. But I'm just running redstone on top of the things, because, yeah, you can see here, it isn't gonna look the best if there's just a piece of redstone dust sticking out the front, so I wouldn't really recommend it. This is just a really simple stick man, do whatever you want. But as I was saying before, the limitations, if you have multiple letters, it will not register the multiple letters unless you make the modification to the system, but it also just wouldn't, even if you made that modification, it probably wouldn't work, because it wouldn't be able to pass the second S down without getting... Yeah, that's a tough one. So, I would say just avoid double letters unless you want to complicate this thing by like times 10. Right now I'm making the reset system, just a lever to redstone to an observer, so every time you would flick the lever, it'll give a 1-tick pulse, which is a pulse short enough to remove 1 item from a hopper. And guess what we're going to use it to do? We're going to use it to remove 1 item from a hopper, and we're going to remove the word setting letter banner thing. The banners that you put in there to set the words, it'll remove that. But if you don't have a letter in there, let's say you only use 4 out of 5 letters, or you use 5 out of 6, or 6 out of 7, or 4 out of 7, it'll ruin the systems, and you'd have to try them and have to make them again. It probably isn't. You could probably make 1 mistake and it'll still work. But here's where I realize that I need more items, or less items in the sorting system. But if you don't have a banner in there and you try using the reset system, it'll probably be fine the first time, but it'll still take some permanent damage that you'd have to re-put the items in. And now here's where I realized a banner actually stacks to 16. And a banner that stacks to 16 will give off more signal strength than an item that gives off less than 16. So putting the banner in that slot got rid of the first item. But now I move it back, because the banner has to be in the first slot, has to be empty, and then 15111, or any combination. It can be any item, just make sure they aren't banners. That's pretty important. Now with the rest of this 1-tick pulse, we're going to use it to reset our strike counter. And what I'm building here is a pulse extender. You will probably need to do the same. The way I built it is rather bad. I will fix it later, but you just put in a bunch of comparators facing each other and make sure you have the redstone lines. You have to have at least 2 distance between the turning, so it'll slowly degrade signal over time. It'll do 15 cycles, which will hold out for a very long time, but the longer you make it, the more pulse extendy it'll get. You really don't need it to extend for too long, just enough for all 5 items to leave. But I test it here, and it gets rid of all 5 strikes, and now you see how it's poorly made because it's too close to the Hangman, and also the pulse is so short it's just making a loop. So I just increased the repeater delay, and that should hopefully fix a problem. But if you keep seeing that problem, maybe you need to change one more thing or something. But yeah, that's what happens if you don't have a thing in there. It gets rid of one of our blocks. You just need to make sure to put it back in. Now I put a banner in there. Now if I flick it, it should get rid of the banner and only the banner, which is exactly what we want. We need to make sure the banner is out, so we're ready for the next game, and the next item you put in will get stuck in that slot, and that's the letter it's gonna be. So in order to play, you just need to put in your 5 letters after the machine is empty, and it should have all 5 letters imprinted, or however many letters you want. But then when you reset it, it'll get rid of all those 5 letters, ready for the next game, and all the 5 strikes, or however many letters you want, as said before. But that should be basically everything, all the limitations, how to build it, just the fundamentals on how to build it, not a direct tutorial, because those are kind of limiting. But any questions you can leave down in the comments. Goodbye.